Thank you for joining also the second part of our discussion today, the deep dive workshop on actually the same topics that we discussed in the morning, but now it's a more close discussion among our WindEurope members, LETA-N members, and people from experts from system operators, regulators, and other national authorities. We have divided the discussion into two parts. So the first one will be again about curtailments and flexible connections. I would like to start with some instructions. So we would like to ask you, first of all, to let you know that intervention is voluntary, so you can ask us to take the floor to reply to the questions. There will be a microphone circulating in the room. But I think if you prefer, you can also come here and speak at the podium, I think, if I understood correctly, yeah? So we would like to ask you to limit your interventions to a maximum of 3 minutes so that everybody has the chance to speak. If your organization is joining with multiple colleagues, then maybe to select one person per topic, per discussion, that will be responsible to represent your organization. Just to let you know that it's not only us in the room, we also have Susanna Sadlova from the European Commission, DG ENER, that is joining us online, because as Rafael, due to an organizational commitment, they couldn't travel to come to the event in person, so we facilitated online connection only for them. And here on the screen, you can see the 3 questions. They're quite high level, of course, that we would like to discuss for this first session. We would like to give priority to our colleagues coming from who have traveled to join our discussion with their interventions. So please feel free to take first the floor to share your experience. And yes, I think we can start. Maybe I can read the questions once, if that's helpful for everyone.
Can you refer which countries we are also represented?
To mention some of the countries, yes. I don't want to miss anyone. Yes, please raise your hand. As far as I know, first of all, we have the people that were speaking in the panel this morning. So we have representatives from Spain, from Northern Ireland, from the Netherlands, and then. Am I forgetting anyone from the UK? The UK, sorry. I know we have representatives from Bulgaria, Poland, if I'm not mistaken, Romania. Belgium, sorry, Berenice, and I think this is it, right? Italy, Croatia, sorry.
Help us, help us, it's a
If
live discussion.
there is anyone who is not mentioned, please let us know. Okay. Yes, so we'll read the questions. The first one is, they're all quite open questions, so if you can describe the challenges you're facing in terms of curtailment and flexible or non-firm connection agreements in your country or in the markets you are operating assets. If you can explain which solutions are currently in place for these challenges and which are envisaged for the next steps, and what is your recommendation? And then it's also very interesting to know, in case flexible connection agreements are applied in your countries or the country you're operating in, how they're designed, and if there is any interesting example to share. So just to let you know that you're free to respond to any of the questions you would like. There is whoever intervenes is not obliged to respond to all of them. And I would now like to open the floor to interventions. And if there are not some immediate interventions, maybe we can quite quickly go to Susanna, who is online. But let's first see if someone in the room would like to kick off the discussion.
In order to, okay, thank you very much. But in order to facilitate, I would also like, I understand we have some colleagues from other wind associations. The Polish, I don't know if any other one. For sure we would like, where is the Polish? Polish Wind Association? No, here?
It's not the Polish Wind Association, it's, yeah, also, sorry.
Okay, so we would like to have your interventions in the beginning in order to understand also other countries' approaches, issues and problems, and not to recirculate only the Greek problems or solutions. Okay. So, yes, of course. Please introduce yourself and your organization in the beginning, because...
Yeah, thank you. Simon Müller, I'm Head of International Affairs at ERG, Italian operator, developer. But I manage only international affairs, so I know very little about the Italian market, so unfortunately I can't help with that. What I do work a lot on is Northern Ireland, and Gillian this morning showed you the issues they're facing with constraints in Northern Ireland, 25–30% constraints over the year, peaking at 42% in December, and we're expecting this will continue. And I think Northern Ireland does give an example of some concerns we have around flexible connections. Obviously, connecting a project is vital to the value of the project. If you don't have a connection, it has zero value. So I understand why flexible connections can be very interesting for a project developer. The thing is that as things have been done in Northern Ireland, you don't get firm connection and thereby compensation until a list of grid reinforcements are built. And when we invested in the first two projects in Northern Ireland, those grid works were supposed to be finished in 2025. So that meant we would have 4 years of constraints at around 7 to 10%. Those have now risen to 30 to 40%. And the grid development works have been postponed, so the latest one now is in 2033. So instead of having 4 years, we'll have 12 years of constraints, and there is no real possibility of constraints going down until 2032 at this point. So we are looking now at something that is impossible. Some of the other investors in Northern Ireland are risking default because they have project financed their projects. We have built them on the we have financed them ourselves, so we don't have that issue, but these are obviously projects that don't generate enough to repay. So we have to be very, I was looking at the energy market design, and the language is very much in line with what has been done in Northern Ireland, so it will very much be up to the single member states to implement some rules that give you some kind of guarantee. So that could be a cap, for example, on how much you can be constrained without having compensation, or it can be that you get deemed firm access after X number of years, because otherwise I can guarantee you that you will incur the same kind of problems, because at the end of the day, the risk of grid delays is entirely on the developer, but we can't do anything about them. And I know that the transition system operator in Northern Ireland wants to do everything they can to speed up these grid reinforcements, but it's not that easy. And they have other things they have to think about as well. They have other concerns, other priorities than our projects, obviously. So this is the part of the debate. I think we should be very careful about the flexible connections. Make sure it actually has real value, because what might seem to be a value initially for the project might turn out to be none.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Bernice Krabs. I'm from the Belgium Offshore Wind Association. So I'm going to go further and give a little bit the same example as that you're giving for the moment. So we are in Belgium. There is a tender that has been opened for a new offshore wind farm of 700 megawatts. So it's not a small one, it's a big one. But in order to get all this electricity to the consumers, the TSO has to build 2 additional lines. And there is the same problem as you mentioned before. So there is uncertainty about the date of the realization of it. There is a lot of opposition to the line. So we don't know exactly when the permits will be there and when the line will be constructed. So the TSO says today, yeah, it will have a flexible connection without, so you can be curtailed. They speak about caps, so that's a good thing. But you don't know how long it will last, because there is still an uncertainty about the duration. So, like you said, and I think it's a very good thing that you said, is in fact a risk, because risk of not realization of an onshore reinforcement is in fact basically a risk of a TSO. What's now with a flexible connection, it's the risk of the TSO which is transferred to the developer, and it is a developer who has to take this risk, to take it within its business case, and to come up with it. The result is that the price of the electricity will go up. So that's really an important thing. And in our case, we have there will be a CFD, contract for difference. So, but it will have an impact on the strike price that the different developers who are in competition will give. It will drive up the CFD, but that means that CFD is paid for by the Belgian taxpayer. And the argument given for the flexible connection is say, yes, we can't give money we can't reimburse curtailments, because otherwise the costs for the grids are going up, and that has to be paid by the grid users. So there is, I think, the most important is it should be looked at a holistic point of view and look at all the costs, because if the costs are not bared by the grid users, then they have to be bared by somebody else, because the electricity will be more expensive. And in the world of today, where in Belgium, the industry is really crying, because they say we have competitiveness problems. Price of electricity should go down and not up. It is really an issue. So that's what I wanted to share.
So if I understand correctly, your suggestion is no to flexible grid connections if we are speaking for offshore wind farms.
Yes,
because the volume of the investments and the huge insecurity.
Because the idea of when the TSO says, why do they introduce a flexible connection? They say it's also to push the developers of projects, onshore wind, batteries and everything, to points in the grid where there is capacity which is available. But you know, that reasoning doesn't work for offshore wind farms, because we can't choose where we are going to connect. You connect at the seaside or not. You don't connect at all. And also we can't, as it's in the context of a tender, and at certain point in the tender you also have to build and to connect to the grid. And if you're not connecting, you get penalties. So we can't choose neither the timing on which you're going to connect. So this is really a point where you are. It's good it could be used for technologies that they really can choose a place in the grid and the timing to connect. But if you are like in the case with a tender that forces you to connect at a certain point and a certain point in time too, well, this is difficult.
Okay, point understood. Holland, yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Piotr Kacejko. I'm cooperating with Polish National Wind Energy Association. On the beginning, it is not a good thing if somebody is happy, if friends have troubles, but I am happy because here I heard that in many countries are the same problems as in Poland. So it doesn't solve these problems, but I'm a little bit happy than I was before. I would like to say something. I will not say about very big and strange troubles with wind generation in Poland. Maybe you heard about this, that up to 6 years it was completely frozen because it wasn't in accordance with political and maybe religion views of our previous authorities. But now I would like to say something about the flexible connection agreement. And the situation is that TSO is writing down these agreements since, I think, 2 years. But DSO did not want to write down such agreements. So there is a flexibility on the level of TSO. So it's better to have something than nothing. But the calculations and simulation which we have done in my university were ordered by some developers which receive such a flexible connections, and they ask us what is the risk assessment of this flexibility. What is the amount of energy which will not be generated because of curtailments, because of, I mean, system curtailments, not balance curtailments, but system curtailments. And we have worked out such a method, and we can say that there is nothing to be afraid of, taking into account these flexible conditions, because the power system constraints in according to our results is on the mean value is about 1 to 3% of lost energy per year. And we work out these results on the basis of long simulations, for example, 10,000 simulations or 5,000 simulations, and the risk of the fact that the lines are out of order is very, very low. So it is, as I said on the beginning, it is the risk assessment, the results for the risk assessment of the flexible connection agreements are positive. So I think that also in the case of DSO, such agreements will be given. So that's all, if I have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, but let me understand something. What percentage of the electricity production comes from renewables in Poland?
Pardon?
What percentage of electricity production
Yes, I mean.
comes from renewables?
Now more than 20.
20. And in your models, you see, let's say, a long-term analysis, because I suppose you have also ambitions to increase the share of renewables,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
And the real problems start when you exceed 40, 50%.
I think that it's difficult to say in that way, because we have very rich program for modernization and rebuilding our lines, and this process start, but it will be developed, and we receive money from many sources, from EU to put our technical possibility of Polish power system on the much higher level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
also from Poland, a few words from DSO Association. I represent an association of 5, the biggest DSO in Poland, and it's I think it's even now about 30% of renewables in Poland. But as said my colleague from Poland, we've got more than 100% more in solar energy than in wind energy now. It's because of politics, of a sort of help, financial help for people, for prosumers in last few years that obtain about more than 12 gigawatts in energy and capacity by prosumers. It's more than 1.5 million of prosumers, small, in villages, just people, yes, in Poland. And in wind, it's more than 10 gigawatts, yes. So the difference in contracts in a few years will increase even, yes. But we are now waiting for changing of rules, of a framework, and even a few months ago, last year, our national regulators said that we should do something, not waiting for rules and framework, and we started together DSO and the Polish Wind Association and other associations in Poland, a sort of long-term workshop. Yes, we started to talk about our problems. We divided it into 4 main groups. So with cable pooling, with commercial agreement, with facilitating the investment, that's no problem. But the first group, when the more problems are concentrated, is to how to optimize and facilitate the connections. And we're talking about it also with from with people from regulatory office and a ministry of climate and environment. And we hope that our discussion will give something in a maybe few weeks, few days. We're waiting for a project of a new law that should do something to firstly, we've got the same problem with projects that people don't realize it, yes, and firms, developers don't build, and the ghost capacity frozen in connection and in permitting. Yes, it's a real problem, and we hope that our government will do something with that. Thank you for the moment.
Someone else from other countries? We have from Croatia somebody. Who is from Croatia? Okay. Ah, yes.
Hi, my name is Filip Kušević. I'm coming from Renewable Energy Sources Association. So we cover wind, solar, and all of the other renewable sources. And well, I'm here mostly to learn, because in Croatia we don't have yet curtailment in a major way. But the problem is that everybody who is now trying to connect to the transmission network has been stalled for 4 or 5 years, because the TSO cannot decide on the grid connection fee. And it's not up to the TSO, it's more up to the Energy Regulatory Agency. So they are afraid that they are not, that they need to do like 450 million euros worth of investments into the grid. And they are trying to put that cost on the investors into future projects. And we, of course, as an association and everybody in the industry is trying to fight that logic, because then those investments won't be viable. And 3 years ago, we introduced new laws which were meant to maybe simplify and better regulate the market. But there was one decision that the energy regulator has to make. It's basically a unit connection fee for connecting to the transmission grid. They're supposed to say, let's say €1 per kilowatt is how much you will pay for the deep investments into the grid. And they have still not decided on that because there is no agreement of the amount of that fee that should be. So now they were trying to propose flexible agreements, but there is a sentence in the rules on connecting to the transmission grid that says that even if they offer you a flexible agreement, they are not abided by the amount of, let's say they tell you that you will be connected in 95% of your power at a certain time, but they are not abided by their own provisions. So basically no bank will ever provide to fund that kind of a project because you don't have...
Sorry, can you repeat? What I understand you try to explain what means flexible grid connections in Croatia. So
we don't have...
What are the restrictions? Sorry.
So the problem is that the TSO can offer you in the grid connection study, they can tell you that you will be, maybe you will have curtailments up until 2027 before they invest in the grid. And they will say that you will have 5% of curtailment of your power at a certain time. But the problem is that they have a provision in the rules saying that they are not abided by their own provision in the contract. So if you are curtailed more than what they said, they will not cover your cost. So basically, that makes any kind of flexible agreements non-possible. Yeah.
And what is your energy production from renewables at the moment?
So we have, it's 60 to 70%, but it's mostly hydropower. So
60, but
yeah,
mostly hydro.
Yeah, because wind takes up about 15%. Solar is maybe 5% right now, but most of what goes to renewables is hydropower.
Can I ask also something to you, Philip? I understand this suggestion to have the I mean, it's not exactly a flexible connection agreement, but something like that. Are they considering a lower connection charge for this? Because I understand they haven't decided for the connection charges, but is there a consideration that, and in any other country, that you're getting a lower service if you're flexibly connected, so you should be paying less to have this flexible connection?
They are suggesting it, but not in any legally abiding way. Those were just talks amongst investors and the regulatory agency. The rules which are in place basically say that they have to decide on the unit fee. And if they present you with a flexible agreement, you have no way to enforce what says what kind of curtailments you can propose. So the problem is we are trying to, how would I say, it's a long process, and we had a problem that we didn't have a governing person in the regulatory agency for a few years actually, and now they just put a new person in charge, so we're hoping that, because that's basically a political decision, we're hoping that they will introduce it. And flexible agreements would be good, but then they need to implement whole different regulation that in order for that to work.
Okay, very useful. So one of the subjects that is something that we are also considering is accountability of the grid and the system operators. Correct? This is the main topic. Okay, by the way, we have here with us also a representative of the European DSO entity, Mrs. Politopoulou, if I say correctly, yes. And the DSO entity represents the European distribution system operators, correct? And Mrs. Politopoulou also wants to say a few words, and I think now it's a good time, Ms. Politopoulou, if you want. If you have, I think you have also 2-3 slides. Yes, yes, of course. If you want, you can also come here and tell us.
Okay. Thank you.
Have we shared the slides? Δεν έχουμε. Ηρώ. Πού είναι η Ηρώ? Ωραία. Χωρίς slides, κυρία. Δεν πειράζει, δεν πειράζει. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And we want you to tell us also from the morning discussions,
yes,
and also from what has been discussed, to give us a short feedback.
yes,
Because you see that one of the issues is accountability of the system operators. We have been discussing also for Greece the fact that Greece is not ready in the distribution system to somehow monitor and control. It's a lot of subjects. It's a very short time.
Yes.
You decide what to say. I'm just...
But it's a lot of subjects, but all we are in a chain, and we must see all as a holistic approach. That's for this reason the European Union decided with regulation to establish a DSO entity. It's like HWEA, as you know, from DSOs. That is who we are. We are also a legal entity mandated by European DSOs. We have more than 130 DSOs across 25 member states. Is more than 22 million of customers represented there. And of course, 9% of connection in Europe. There are also big DSOs and small DSOs, medium and small DSOs. That is a diversity for all. What is our mission? To promote completion and well-functioning in internal energy market. That's the goal, and not only the rights of DSO, but also to deliver and also to internal energy market, so European Union to meet their goal in energy sector. Our core task is very important to mention, that is development of technical rules. All technical rules or legislation applying to DSOs are coming now through this entity. Even from, of course, the second is the good cooperation of TSO and TSO, very critical even in renewable energy resources, in flexible agreements, in all these issues, and of course sharing best practices. In these three pillars, DSO entity is running the grid action plan. As you know, grid action plan is also for connection of renewable energy resources and also the permitting for renewable energy resources. According to Action 11 and 12 of a grid action plan. What this means in supporting implementing legislative tools. So we are going in starting from initial position for permitting and agreements, and also we're going in together with Acer and DGNR to establish legislative rules about permitting and about these flexible connections. And this is and the second one for us, starting point for us, was good practices about our permitting connection. And of course, you know that there are many challenges about permitting and maybe on renewable energy resources. So we start from good practices adopted by member states, and there are 4 pillars about good practices on that. First, in digitalization of grid connection request problems, that we have very good practices from France, Portugal, Slovenia, Estonia, and Spain. What this means, in introduction, a digital platform and online procedures in order to simplify and accelerate permitting process of RES projects, and automized process for application for connection, environmental assessment, and interaction with authorities. This is very, very important that we are not focusing only permitting for DSO's infrastructure, but also focusing the whole chain of permittings in renewable energy resources. The second cluster was improving connection queue management. This is very important, and handled by best practices from Sweden, Ireland, and Spain. And of course, they have practices in order to manage all this HWEA management of renewable energy resources. And the third pillar was introduction to public consultation to increase acceptance. This is very, very crucial, we find, in many member states. So we have a very good example from Slovenia that they have a platform that they publish all this permitting process, and all the stakeholders have to give their opinion on that. And the last one pillar is a simplification of permitting procedures. That's very good. We have very good example from France, Spain, and Bulgaria. It's not used now to see and also to discuss all these good practices. There was a publication from entity about this, the permitting, and there are all these good examples from all these countries with a quite detailed analysis. And also we can contact the EUDSO entity if you want to have a specific maybe webinar about all this permitting and the paper. Maybe will be useful about the wind energy, European and also Greek about this. But also this is not the only from renewable energies that is looking entity. We're looking also for all network codes, even old, even new, about flexibility, about demand response, about observability of the network, about new 10-year network plan, but also, and we're stressing, and financial issues, because this is not only the support from the side of the production side, but also from the network side. We hear before that the word affordability, the word competitiveness of European energy industry. That's very critical issues that are coming from financial issues, even in the networks, regulatory frameworks, even from funds for networks or for producers. So all this under umbrella and examination of the entity. Happy to give more details if someone wants more. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present DSO entity to your guests.
Okay, thank you very much, but please don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
A little unpleasant. Okay. You were here in the morning discussion, I suppose, eh? You were
yes,
here.
yes.
The tendency is that renewable producers go to more and more risky environment, flexible grid connections. Sometimes it's a floating sand, okay? And stability is necessary in order to ensure that the prices are getting as low as possible, and predictability and stability are important. On the other hand, we see the system DSOs or TSOs to try to protect themselves in this new environment by trying to find somehow, I don't know if the correct term is immunity or something like this, but they want to stay out of all this difficult discussion by saying, like we heard in Croatia, we will do our best possible, but we cannot guarantee you anything. There are no consequences for transmission or distribution system operators if they underperform, or in general, if they do not achieve to do their job properly. So, and actually, compensation of curtailments is one signal to the market and to the DSOs or TSOs that look, if there are congestions, someone has to pay, and you are one of the entities that have to pay because someone is wrongly, because it's not a flexible grid connection. If it's a flexible connection, it's another discussion. Wrongly is damaged. So my question, my unpleasant question is the following. What is the position, if there is any, of the European DSOs entity in this discussion? Do you believe that curtailments due to congestion should be, according to EU regulation, being compensated by the distribution or transmission operators?
Well,
in general,
yes.
how much are you willing to undertake accountability?
Yes, that's a very good question, and thank you for that. As I said before, entity has a holistic approach to the system, to the whole system, and also to all achieve our goals. And we are not focusing independent only to DSOs and the good, let's quotes of DSOs. On this framework, of course, depends if a DSO is taking account this accountability. What is this, the prerequisites? Is the regulatory framework. You know, as business, the system operators are regulated. If the regulation allows you to do this job, it's not a problem from DSO to undertake. But this is an agreement between the policies makers, DSOs, and the market all together. If, as I mentioned before, the final customer is going to pay, which part of the market is going to pay? Now I think is the time to sit all together and to see in which part of the market is going to pay. Let's say we have an example from Greek DSO that is also from TSO, that is also support connection of renewable energy resources, taking 50% of the connection fee is under their finance investment. In the past, before 3 years, was all paid by the producer. Now is taken by 50% by DSO. But why this? Because this the regulatory framework, according to European law, is allow DSO to do this. So it's balancing between the risk of the producer and that in the past paid the whole connection and the risk is passing to DSO. But also the framework recognizes this to DSO to do this job. So we must also to, let's say, share the risk. That's our opinion, to share the risk between the part of the market.
Okay, I understand and thank you for the answer, but because it's a deep dive, you will allow me to deep dive. Yes. The framework is here. We already have the European regulation. We discussed this morning about the European regulation. It's not something that is a subject of negotiation. It's a subject of applying an obligatory regulation. So I see that the system or distribution system operators are resisting to apply a framework. They do not have a different approach on how to apply a future framework. If I put you in a difficult position, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
But this is something which is a hot topic, I think, in all the countries.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. But remind that DSOs have many peculiarities in each country. It's not like TSOs. TSOs have also common regulation on this. I think what's the problem? The problem, the devil is in the details. And each country has specific details about how is handling this risk between among the participants of the market. I think there no solution for them. We hear about now an example that sharing the risk of connection, that means minimize the risk. We hear something else. It's not one solution. That's of course, I'm sure about an entity, DSO is willing to take this risk with a balanced way of, through regulatory framework. And now we are focusing also in financial issues, not only for DSOs, but also for anticipatory investments that all we know that Acer faced that many anticipatory investments are stranded cost, means investments that maybe we'll never use, but also DSO entity is working how to finance through funds, through specific funds, all these investments in order to take the risk of this infrastructure. Even ISRES, even storage for the system, for this. So, unfortunately, we are lack of the year of depends VS HWEA, but now we are running very fast. And I think 2025 will be a very crucial year for entity, and will face many, many proposals, also for financial means separating the risk between the member states.
Okay. I'm tempted to say more, because it's
okay.
what
it's not between. It's a very
yes,
good discussion
yes,
for all of
I
them.
will constrain myself.
Okay. Okay.
But if somebody else has a relative question,
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Happy to discuss.
Another DSO. She comes to support you.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Happy is also. Mika is a chair in DSO entity and is working very hard about very network codes, please.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you for introducing me. Yes, I think I hear a lot, and I think I agree with the situation. But let me elaborate a little bit on it. Sorry. For example, I was in the panel 1 this morning, but most of the time I'm working for the EU DSO entity, and I'm working on existing grid codes. Small example, different item, but the same subject. It's about electric cars, and they should be certified before they can go on the road and they can charge in the future. So they have to certify. Every electric car has to certify. And then the manufacturers started to complain to me, because I'm the chair of that expert group, and they said, in each country, and even in a country, there are different requirements per DSO. And so we cannot work, we cannot certify, we don't know what to produce, and please, can you do something, because you are from the EU DSO entity. And now I think I hear a little bit the same, so it's a good question, and we are here, so please do ask. But if I hear that, for example, in Croatia, the DSOs don't want, or the TSOs or whatever, let's say the system operators, don't want to connect because of the money they have to invest, yeah, I think that's not possible, and it should not be allowed. So I think it's very clear, a system operator has only one thing to do, and that's making connections and connect everyone to the grid who wants a connection. And then then discuss the connection agreement. So I suggest then you should go to your authority. So first start a discussion or whatever, but simply by saying it's not possible, and I don't want to blame any other DSO or TSO, whatever, but I think the rules are quite clear. So what we did, for example, with the car manufacturers, we work together now on a paper to make it clear that there are technical requirements, and the car manufacturers have to fulfill the technical requirements for the technical electricity connection, and they first have to show their certificate, and then they can connect. But on the other hand, we should, as system operators, we should not ask ask extra requirements or difficult requirements, or whatever that makes it impossible to connect. So we're trying to work to a document together, and thank you. You explained so well. There are so many DSOs, so we cannot, we're not responsible for all the DSOs everywhere. But at least if you know a colleague who's working there, do ask or try to find a connection, and then maybe we can help you a little bit. But in the end, if you have a problem with your own system operators in your own country, member state, then please go at least to the authority, because there's a system in the regulation, and if it doesn't work, then you have to complain in your member state to your authority. And I think we can help wherever we want, and we can explain it, and we can go back, and we can write a paper for the EU DSO entity, and we can spread the word into our company. That's what we can do, of course. But yeah, it takes two to tango. I don't know if it's English. We say it sometimes
Yes,
in the
thank you,
Netherlands.
thank you.
Okay,
Very,
thank you.
yes. We will reach out to you also. We will reach out to you also, not only to the national authorities. Yeah. Okay. Any Greek? We had various.
I can bring a bit light on Bulgaria, because you said that you first want to have the countries that are outside Greece speak. So I'm Miglena Stoilova, and I'm CEO of PPC Bulgaria, and also a chairperson of the Bulgarian Wind Energy Association. So what I could say about Bulgaria, we have 700 megawatts, not so much wind installed, mainly in 2009, 2010. And what we are currently facing for these plants are curtailments when the solar resource is very high, and there is a lot of supply and not sufficient demand in the grid. So this is when we face curtailments even for the wind plants, mainly in the summer. It has not been very severe, let's say, over the last couple of years, but the solar plants are mounting, so we are having around 4.7 gigawatts of solar nowadays. So this problem is going to be even more serious. The producers are not compensated for these curtailments. The other thing that we have, and this relates to the flexible connection agreements that you were discussing, I'm not completely sure it's exactly the same, but there is a written legislation which allows the so-called temporary grid connection agreement. So this is a connection agreement that will allow you to connect to the grid at a reduced capacity for a limited period of time until your permanent connection is, so when the grid is ready to get you connected in a permanent way. So this is supposed to be regulated on case-by-case basis in the interconnection agreement with the TSO. So this is more or less it. We unfortunately still do not have even plants that are in an RTB stage wind. There is a lot of around 5-6 gigawatts of wind under development, but due to problems with the connection to grid, they are still not in even RTB phase. So this is my 5 cents about Bulgaria. So thank you.
I would like to ask something to Florentine. Sorry, yes, because you mentioned before during the panel the different contracts that you have for non-firm connections, and I can't remember the name of the others. Can you explain maybe how the caps apply in this? Is it a percentage of the capacity? Is it an annual generation cap or something else?
Thank you, thank you. I'm just checking the names in English because I'm going back to my presentation because I have to check as well. Yes, it's the capacity limitation contract we have and the redispatch contract. And there are only two. So there are two contracts. Sorry. There are two contracts written in the Dutch network code. And the first one is a capacity limitation contract. So, for example, where are we? Where are wind? Yeah, wind. Yeah. Last week I was at Solar Europe, so I have to concentrate where we are. So, for example, you have a wind park, and it's 100 megawatt, and we can connect, but we have, and it's doable. But then we ask, if there's a lot of wind, then please reduce till 80 megawatt. And that's what we call a capacity limitation contract. It can do 100 all day, the whole year, but in advance, we have discussion with the customer, with the park, with the wind park, and we say, if, for example, the wind blows over force 6, you have to go down to 80 megawatt. You have to limit. And if you limit, then you lose 20 megawatt hour. So we compensate you with an amount of 100,000 euros or whatever. And then the discussion starts, because they say, yeah, no, we want a lot of more money, because hey, yeah, they have several, you know, I think you all know, it's not only the megawatt hour price, but it's also the in advance price and the auction price and all the believe me, if you start to negotiate, there's a list with 10 items they want to compensate for. So, and then we said, well, no, we skip that one, and the administrative costs, no, that is, you know, so, and the secretariat cost, no, no, no. But yes, we agree about 3, 4 items. So that should be included in the costs. So, and then we're discussing that they have a connection for 100 megawatts, and they can do whole year, if they want. But if we ask them to reduce 20 megawatts, then there's a mutual agreement from both sides. There's an agreement already that when we ask them to reduce with 20 megawatts, then they receive a certain amount of compensation. So that's that's the capacity limitation contract. And we just can call each other and we ask them, now is the moment, please reduce. The other contract is the redispatch contract, and that's an agreement that you are willing, so the wind park is willing to fulfill the redispatch request anytime. And you can try to discuss about prices, but you can also do, say, then it's the real redispatch way. So you go, in the Netherlands, we go on the GoPax platform or whatever. So in the Netherlands, for now, we are dealing with 2 contracts, capacity limitation and the redispatch. Capacity limitation is more, you say when it comes, or in a month or next year, and the redispatch is more for intraday, for tomorrow, for in the moment.
Just a clarification, in these contracts, if the developer doesn't respect, so it doesn't reduce the...
I think he has to reduce. Okay, I'm telling you now as if it works all fine in the Netherlands and everyone is happy with each other and we're shaking hands, but it's absolutely not the case. But I'm telling you how it's written in the codes. So there are some DSOs, TSOs, who are very, very afraid, and they ask, and it are most of the time the technical people, the electrical engineers, and they say, but Florentine, what do we do if they don't reduce? Because then the grid goes down. Yeah, and then I said, but it's in the agreement. Then put a high punish on it, you know, and a tremendous amount of money they have to pay if they don't succeed. Yeah, okay, so then the discussion starts all over. Then we say, okay, you have to reduce from 100 till 80, but if you don't, we sold your wind parks for whatever. So then there's a new discussion. What the technical colleagues prefer to have a real-time interface. And that's also an article in the RFG, the Network Code RFG, requirements for generators. It's a European network code. And there's written that there should be a real-time interface. So now what the technical people in the Netherlands prefer, they say, first we want to have you, wind park, to have a real-time interface, and we want a communication protocol. So because we ask you to reduce from 100 till 80, But if you don't, then we can push on the button, on the real-time interface. But then there's a discussion going on in the Netherlands. For example, the company where I work for, we say, we don't care if you have a real-time interface. We invite you to the grid, but please follow the agreement. And there are other DSOs, we have 3 of them in the Netherlands, and even we can discuss. They said, we only connect you, and you have a capacity limitation contract. Plus, we want you to install the real-time interface. And if you don't install the real-time interface and the communication protocol, plus a test, then we don't connect you. But I think, from regulation perspective, it's already one step too much, because there's never, in the Netherlands, there's only written, if there's congestion, you still have to connect next customers, plus extra, have an agreement with them, and connect them and just operate again. And there's nowhere written that you should have a real-time interface obliged, what is working. But yes, there is a fear that people don't reduce, that wind parks don't reduce. So a technical solution could be the real-time interface. Now, every new wind, solar park, or whatever, it's now obliged, up from now. Up from now, all the new parks are obliged to have the real-time interface with a working communication protocol, but that are only the new parks and not the existing parks. And in the end, if you are an existing wind park, you are allowed to raise your hand and to call the system operator and to ask for an agreement, because we invite everyone to join the congestion management game. Because then we can choose, who do we ask? Wind park A, wind park B, solar park C, because we have agreements with all of them, and we can connect even more parks. So if you are a park from the past, or you are a new park, you're all invited to join the congestion management protocol and game. But we cannot, I think, from regulatory perspective, we cannot oblige the new customers to have a real-time interface, but we can do for the new ones. And sometimes we do ask, okay, you're an old park and you want to join, but please install a real-time interface just for the certainty. But I think it's one step further than actually is possible with an eye on the regulation. I hope it's clear.
So this interface is required even to the type A, the smallest units, all the units that connect?
Yes, in the netcode RFG 1.0, the RFG which is now, not amended, there you see for type A, there's just active power reducing to 0. I think it's in 5 minutes or 5 seconds. Now I'm lost. That's for type A. So you can only do, if you push the button, you can reduce it to 0. And that's it. For type B, we ask everyone to have that you can go up and only go down, but then immediately. In the RFG 2.0, which is now in the hands of European Commission, we as system operators do ask for type A, B, etc. It's all the same, and then we want to have the possibility to increase, to reduce, and to increase the active power on distance by real-time interface. Yeah.
Very useful. Any Greek? In Greece, we have solved all our problems, as you see. Is there someone who wants to say something? Who believes has a problem with curtailments? Or is afraid? Or wants to open a discussion for compensations? all problems solved. This is very good. It's an encouraging message for the rest of Europeans. Okay. I think it was very insightful. We will make a break now for 10 minutes, something like this. And then we will resume for another 45 minutes, let's say 1 hour max. 5 o'clock, we have to leave the room, 5:15, where we will discuss grid connection permitting and the queues. And we also have our representative from the Commission. We need a small, if she's listening, we need a small patience. She will be the first one to speak after we resume. Okay, so small break.